Nick Jack Dam, built by the Tennessee Valley Authority, is one of the many hydroelectric dams on the Tennessee River. The dam holds back the waters of Nick Lake, which stretches along 215 miles of shoreline, winding through the scenic Tennessee River Gorge. Near this dam lies Nick Jack Cave, also known locally as Bat Cave because of the thousands of bats that once called it home. This cave, situated about a mile east of the dam, is just one of the many caves found in Tennessee. But Nick Jack Cave, with its dark history and legends, is perhaps one of the most intriguing. The cave has been drawing people for over a century. By 1872, it was already being shown to curious tourists who were taken inside by guides on boats. One of the most famous stories associated with the cave is about Lawrence Ashley, a guide who in 1927 allegedly disappeared during an exploration. Newspapers like the New York Times reported that he had been lost for a week before reappearing, claiming to have dug his way out 8 miles away. It was later discovered that this was all a hoax meant to attract more visitors to the cave. Over time, the cave became famous for another reason. Musician Johnny Cash, in 1967, during a personal crisis, entered the cave with the intention of ending his life. But instead, he had a spiritual experience which led him to turn his life around and kick his drug addiction. In 1980, TV closed the cave, declaring it a sanctuary for thousands of endangered Indiana bats. They installed fences and warning signs, making it clear that entering the cave was illegal. However, despite the warnings, many adventurers and divers still found the cave irresistible, willing to risk fines and even their lives to explore its depths. And as any experienced cave diver will tell you, caves, especially underwater ones, can be treacherous. There are 2 golden rules: never dive into a cave without the proper training and equipment, and always use a guideline to ensure you can find your way back out. David was a 31-year-old from Alabama who loved the outdoors. Whether it was hiking or fishing, he was always seeking adventure. He'd recently taken up scuba diving, fascinated by the world beneath the water. As someone who constantly sought new challenges, David wasn't content with just casual diving. He wanted to push the limits. So when a friend mentioned the legend of Nick Jack Cave and its supposedly giant catfish, David was hooked. According to local lore, these massive catfish were thought to thrive on the droppings of the cave's bat population. The thought of catching one was too tempting for David to resist. The only problem, the cave was off limits, surrounded by fences and guarded by heavy penalties for trespassers. David's friend warned him about the dangers of the cave, explaining that it was more than just a fine. People could lose their lives in the unpredictable, murky waters. But for David, the danger was part of the appeal. He'd visited the cave 3 times with his friend, each time pushing a little deeper into the forbidden area. And now he was determined to go even further, hoping to catch the legendary catfish. This would be his final trip, the ultimate challenge. On the night of August 15, 1992, David and his friend arrived at the cave once again. This time, they had a clear plan: enter the water near the cave and try to spear one of the giant fish they believed was lurking within. The previous night, David had nearly caught a massive catfish, but lost it at the last moment. This time, he was confident they would succeed. They slipped into the murky water just outside the fenced area, their dive lights barely penetrating the darkness inside the cave. The water was clearer, but still dangerous. The 2 divers navigated through the narrow passages, following their bubbles to stay oriented. However, as they ventured deeper into the cave, David began to feel uneasy. He checked his air gauge and realized it was running low. It was time to leave. David signaled to his friend that they should head back, but as they tried to ascend, they hit something unexpected: a solid ceiling of rock. They were trapped. Panic set in. They had swam too far into the cave and now found themselves in a maze of flooded passages with no clear way out. The walls of the cave seemed to close in around them as their dive fins stirred up silt from the cave floor, turning the water into a thick fog. Visibility dropped to 0. Desperate, they tried to find their way out. But in the confusion, they got separated. David's friend managed to swim in the right direction and find an exit. But David wasn't so lucky. He surfaced in a small air pocket, alone in the darkness, with no idea how to escape. As soon as David's friend emerged from the cave, he rushed to find help. He contacted the Tiva security team, and soon a massive rescue operation was underway. But it wasn't a rescue mission. It was a recovery. The authorities assumed that David had either drowned or succumbed to hypoxia, lack of oxygen. If he'd been lucky enough to find an air pocket, no one believed he could still be alive after so many hours in the cave. The dive teams that arrived were skilled in open water rescues, but they weren't experienced cave divers. Cave diving is a specialized skill that requires years of training, and without proper equipment and knowledge, it's incredibly dangerous. The Lad dive team declared that David's situation was hopeless. Until Buddy Lane got involved. Buddy Lane, a cave rescue expert from Chattanooga, had been caving since he was 15 years old. He'd participated in his first cave rescue in 1973 and had been hooked ever since. When he heard about the situation at Nick Jack Cave, Buddy knew he had to act. He believed that David might still be alive in an air pocket deep within the cave. But his offer to help was initially refused. The rescue teams didn't want to risk sending anyone else into the deadly cave. But as time went on and the search yielded no results, the authorities finally agreed to let Buddy and his team take over. Buddy and his team quickly devised a plan. They convinced the Tiva to open the floodgates at Nick Jack Dam, lowering the water level in the lake by 14 inches. This would hopefully expose new air pockets in the cave and give David a better chance of survival. Buddy and his lieutenant, Dennis Curry, entered the cave, navigating the dangerous passages with the expertise only a seasoned cave diver could have. They screamed David's name as they swam deeper into the cave, hoping for any sign of life, and then they heard it. A faint hey echoed from further inside the cave. David was alive. They followed his voice and found him barely conscious in a tiny air pocket. He had been treading water for 17 hours, fighting off hypoxia as the oxygen in the air pocket slowly ran out. Buddy and Dennis guided David out of the cave, carefully maneuvering through the narrow passages. When they finally emerged into the daylight, the crowd that had gathered along the riverbank erupted in cheers. Against all odds, David had survived his terrifying ordeal. David Avid would later say that he had seen visions while trapped in the cave, visions of his family, of rescuers searching in vain, and of angels coming to take him home. But it wasn't angels who saved him that day. It was the expertise and determination of Buddy Lane and his team. Cecilio Lopez Torrero's life revolves around pushing boundaries, and he possesses a natural talent for navigating confined spaces. As a child in Spain, Cecilio found his passion for caving, which became more than a pastime. It turned into his purpose. During his youth as an explorer, he showed no fear, gliding through caves and tunnels with grace, amazing his companions. He could find his way through a cave's cramped areas almost as if he had a sixth sense, discovering paths and concealed parts with remarkable precision. His friends saw Cecilio as a true expert in his field, charting the bends and curves of caves where most people would feel trapped by darkness and stone. Cecilia's abilities only got better as time passed. He possessed a remarkable memory, capable of recording each cave's layout and dangers, and his drive to uncover unexplored regions kept drawing him back to the unknown. It wasn't just about the excitement, though. To Cecilio, every cave might hold hidden treasures, a spot where ancient artifacts and archaeological marvels could remain untouched for hundreds of years. His commitment was one of a kind. He aimed to go where nobody else had been brave enough to explore and make discoveries that could change history books. His dedication made him famous among Spanish cavers, especially due to his 15-year stint with the Madrid Rescue Group, where he helped with tough cave rescues across Europe. Throughout his career, Cecilio ventured into some of the most difficult cave systems in Mexico, Italy, and Uzbekistan. Yet Peru held a special place in his heart. Peru's rugged, ancient lands hide many undiscovered caves, some untouched for thousands of years, offering chances for groundbreaking archaeological finds. Cecilio dreamed of exploring these depths and uncovering their secrets. This dream seemed within reach when a friend told him about the Imaj cave in northern Peru. His friend, who had researched the area, called it El Intim Mahai, meaning Cave of the Sun in Quetta. The more Celio learned, the more it pulled him in. The cave was enormous, stretching deep underground and notoriously hard to navigate, full of narrow passages and steep drops. But what really grabbed Cecilia's attention was its potential. Archaeologists believed it might hold important artifacts or even burial sites from ancient civilizations. CIO jumped at the chance to map the Imaj cave. He quickly started planning the expedition back home. This wasn't just another adventure, it was the ultimate test he'd been waiting for. He gathered a small team of top explorers, ready to face the cave's unique risks. The Im cave was no walk in the park. It stretched over 1.5 miles long and plunged deeper than 1,200 feet inside. The air stayed frigid, raw barley warming above 50 F, with humidity clinging at nearly 100%. Tight passages, pitch black darkness, and hidden drops made this cave deadly for the unprepared. The team met with Javier Farge, the landowner who first found the cave, before setting out. Javier acted as both friend and guide, explaining the cave's dangers and possible historical value. He also gave a stark warning: any injury deep in the cave could be fatal due to its remoteness and rescue difficulties. But Javier's words didn't scare the team. They felt ready for anything. In August 2013, Cecilio team started their first expedition. They focused on checking out already mapped areas and getting a feel for the cave's layout. They spotted hints of ancient remains, but didn't take anything back. By the end, they knew they'd only scratched the surface. Back in Spain, they carefully planned a second trip, this time bringing in experts from Italy and France. Cecilio even got backing from Peru's Lamba Museum and the Melqui Center, which works to protect Peru's historical sites. With permits in hand, they now had access to parts of the cave usually off limits due to its sacred status among local communities. Fast forward to September 8, 2014. Cecilio team arrived at the Macha Cave after a tough 20-hour drive from Lima. They set up camp near the entrance, buzzing with excitement about possible groundbreaking discoveries. For the next 10 days, they dove deeper into the cave, tackling more challenging sections each day. On September 18th, their last day, the team geared up for one final push into unexplored depths, hoping for a big discovery. The air crackled with anticipation as they prepared their gear, headlamps checked, rope secured, and communication devices tested. Everything had to be perfect. Cecilio led the way, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and caution as they descended further than ever before. The darkness seemed to press in on all sides. The team moved carefully, aware that each step could lead to a new find or a dangerous situation. Little did they know, this final dive would test their skills and courage like never before, for pushing them to the very limits of human endurance and exploration. Cecilio led the team into the cave's deepest section, carefully anchoring their ropes. The stakes were high. Suddenly, while moving down a narrow shaft, Cecilia's anchor gave way. He plummeted 15 feet, slamming into the rocky floor. Pain shot through his body as he lay there stunned. He'd broken ribs and damaged his spine. The chilling truth hit him. He was trapped. A teammate reached Cecilio, but the situation looked grim. Cecilio couldn't move, and help was far away. One teammate started the long climb to the surface to alert authorities, while the other stayed with Cecilio, offering support in the dark, cramped space. For 5 days, Cecilio lay still in agony, staring at the rock above. Finally, a Peruvian medical team arrived with morphine to ease his pain. But getting him out remained a huge challenge. News of Cecilia's predicament spread fast. His teammates desperately sought help, even asking the Spanish government to step in. At first, Spain hesitated, but as social media picked up the story, pressure grew. 10 of Cecilia's fellow cavers flew to Peru, determined to save their friend. Soon, volunteers poured in from Spain and other countries, all eager to help. The rescue effort was unlike any before. Experts from many countries joined forces with Peruvian authorities to plan a complex extraction. The remote location and dangerous conditions caused major problems. Food, gear, and even water were scarce and hard to get to the cave. For the next 12 days, rescuers set up a rope and pulley system to get Cecilio out. They installed anchors and built a Base Camp 900F inside the cave. The team battled rain, high altitude, and constant risk of rock slides as they prepared for the extraction. After more than 2 weeks trapped and immobile, Cecilia was finally lifted out on a special stretcher. A helicopter whisked him to a nearby medical center to start his long recovery. The rescue gripped the world's attention. It showcased the power of human determination and teamwork in the face of seemingly impossible odds. Cecilia's ordeal highlighted the risks cave explorers face and the incredible skill and bravery of rescue teams. His survival against all odds inspired many and reminded everyone of the indomitable human spirit. The Tim Mache Cave, once a place of excitement and discovery, had become a battleground where life and death hung in the balance. But in the end, human resilience and the unwavering support of the caving community prevailed, bringing Cecilio back from the brink of disaster.